Hello and welcome. You don't need to do anything right now. Nothing to solve, nowhere to be, just here. Let your shoulders drop just a little away from your ears. Let your jaw soften, let your eyes rest, heavy in the dark. Tonight, we are going to travel somewhere very far away and very, very slow, slower than anything you have ever known. We are going to follow one single star from the moment before it was born to the moment billions of years from now, when it finally quietly stops. There is no hurry in this story. There is no hurry anywhere out there among the stars. Time moves in a different way in the space between worlds. A single breath of yours could be 1,000 years out there. So let your breathing slow to match it. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4, and out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Good, let's begin. Chapter 1, the cold, dark cloud. Long, long before our star existed, before it had a name or a light or a warmth of any kind. There was only a cloud, not a cloud like the ones that drift over your home. This cloud was made of gas and dust, spread out across a stretch of space so wide that light itself, the fastest thing there is, would need hundreds of years just to cross from one edge to the other. It is called a nebula, and it is dark. Almost nothing shines here yet.
If you could float inside it, weightless, you would see only the faintest smudge of starlight from other older distant stars filtering through, like moonlight through heavy curtains. It is cold here too, colder than anywhere on Earth, colder than the deepest winter night. The particles of gas drift so slowly, so gently, that they barely move at all. Hydrogen, mostly, the simplest, lightest element there is. Just floating, waiting. Although nothing here is waiting on purpose, it simply is for a long time. Thousands and thousands of years, nothing changes. The cloud drifts through the galaxy the way a single cloud might drift across a summer sky, except this drifting takes longer than every human life laid end to end. Picture it now if you'd like. A vast, dim, quiet cloud hanging in the blackness. Threads of dust curling through it like smoke caught in still air. Small pockets here and there, slightly denser than the rest. Slightly heavier, slightly more still. It is in one of these small pockets, one quiet, unremarkable clump, no different from 1,000 others nearby, that our star will begin. Nothing dramatic happens yet. No flash, no sound. There is no air out here to carry sound anyway. So even if something dramatic did happen, it would happen in complete and total silence. Just a slow settling, a tiny shift in gravity, the faintest of pulls. Let that be the last image before you drift a little deeper. The Mana quiet cloud, patient beyond imagining, gently gathering itself in the dark. Breathe in and out. Interlude, the weight of silence. Let's stay in this quiet cloud a little longer before we move on. There is a kind of silence out here that doesn't exist anywhere on Earth. On Earth, even in the stillest room, there is always something. The faint hum of a house settling, the whisper of your own blood moving, the distant hush of wind against a window. But out here in the space between the stars, there is no air at all to carry any sound. Even if something enormous were happening close by, you would hear absolutely nothing. Just silence. Total. Complete. Endless. And yet this silence isn't empty. It's full of drifting gas, full of slow, ancient motion, full of dust grains tumbling gently end over end, full of the faint, cold light of stars so far away that their light left them before the oldest trees on Earth had even taken root. Let that silence settle around you now, the same way. Not an empty silence, a full one. A held, patient, gentle silence, wrapping around you the way the nebula wraps around the tiny seat of gravity at its center. You don't have to fill this silence with anything. You don't have to think or plan or remember. You can simply rest inside it, the way the cloud rests, unhurried, in the dark. Somewhere very far from here, that tiny pocket of denser gas continues its slow, patient work. Pulling, gathering, settling. And somewhere here, in this room, in this bed, you can do the very same thing. Just settle, a little more, and a little more. The cloud does not know it is about to become a star. It doesn't know anything at all. It simply follows the oldest rule in the universe, that anything with mass pulls ever so slightly on everything else with mass. And so the densest little pocket of gas begins to pull its neighbors closer. Just a little, just barely, a whisper of gravity, tugging at wisps of hydrogen 1,000 years at a time. Nothing to watch, nothing to wait for, just drifting, gathering, slowing down time itself, it seems, because so little happens for so very long. Let yourself settle into that same stillness. Now, nothing to do, nothing to hold on to, just drifting in the cold and the quiet, the way the cloud drifts. Chapter 2. The slow collapse. Thousands of years pass. Then, tens of thousands. The little pocket of gas, once so faint it was barely distinguishable from the space around it, has been quietly pulling more and more of its neighboring gas toward its center. This is called collapse, but don't imagine anything sudden. It is one of the slowest collapses imaginable. A grain of dust drifts a little closer, then another from the far side of the cloud over the course of centuries. It is patient work, the most patient work there is. As the gas gathers, it begins almost imperceptibly to spin. Just the faintest rotation born from all the tiny mismatched motions of all those individual particles, now folding together into one slow, wide turn, like a great lazy whirlpool, so vast that a single revolution takes longer than all of recorded human history. At the very center of this spinning cloud, something begins to change. The gas there is thicker now, denser. The particles are packed closer together than they have ever been. And when gas is compressed, squeezed inward by gravity, it grows warm, not from any flame, not from any spark, just from the simple physical fact of being pressed together. So, deep inside this slowly spinning cloud, in a place with no name yet, a small core of gas begins for the very first time to grow warm. It's nothing you would notice, not yet. If you held out your hand toward it, you would feel nothing at all. It is still colder than any winter you have known, but compared to the icy vacuum around it, that little clump of gas is beginning to change. The material around this warming core continues to fall inward, spiraling slowly, the way water spirals gently toward a drain, except here, there is no water and no drain, only gravity, patiently doing the same quiet work it has always done. Some of this spinning material will one day become planets, but that is a story for much, much later. For now, every last speck of dust is falling toward the center, toward the core, toward the place our star will be born. You can let your body feel heavy now, the way that gas grows heavy as it falls inward, heavier and warmer and slower. There is nothing to do but sink, nothing to do but let gravity carry you gently down, down into stillness. Hundreds of thousands of years pass in this way. The cloud thins at its edges as more and more of its material falls toward the center. The core grows denser, warmer, heavier. A shape is forming now, not a star yet, not quite, but something new, something that didn't exist before. We call this a protostar. It glows very faintly now, not with starlight, not yet, but with a dim, deep red heat, the kind of glow you might imagine, from embers long after a fire has burned low. It is the warmth of gravity itself, of matter falling and pressing and gathering, releasing its energy, slowly, as a soft and heavy light. This dim, glowing protostar sits at the heart of the collapsing cloud, wrapped in swirling gas and dust, like a small, warm secret hidden inside a much larger darkness. For now, that is enough. That is where we will leave it. Glowing faintly, growing slowly, wrapped in the last of its birth cloud. Rest here a while in that same soft, wrapped warmth. Chapter 3. First light. More time passes. So much time that it becomes difficult to hold in the mind. Hundreds of thousands of years. Then, finally, after all that patient falling and gathering, something extraordinary is about to happen. At the very center of our protostar, the pressure has been building. Layer after layer of gas has fallen inward, pressing down on the layers beneath it, generation after generation of gravity's quiet work. And now, deep in the core, the pressure and the heat have both grown so great, millions of degrees now, unimaginable heat, that something new becomes possible. The hydrogen atoms at the very center are being pressed together so tightly, so forcefully, that they begin to fuse. Two of the lightest atoms in the universe joining to become one slightly heavier atom, helium, and in that joining, releasing a tiny, tiny burst of energy. One fusion alone is almost nothing, a whisper. But now imagine this happening not once, but countless times, every single moment throughout the entire core of our young star. Trillions upon trillions of these tiny fusions, every second, all releasing their small whispers of energy together, and all those whispers joined together become a light. This is the moment our star is truly born. Somewhere in the quiet dark of that collapsing nebula, a new light switches on. Not suddenly, like a lamp, more like a sunrise that takes years, not minutes to fully arrive. Slowly, the glow at the center brightens and pushes outward against the gas still falling in from above. For the first time, this new star begins to shine. The monet pushes back against the pressing weight of its own outer layers and settles finally into a kind of balance. Gravity pulling inward forever, fusion pushing outward forever, two immense forces meeting in perfect, quiet balance, holding the star steady for longer than you or I could ever imagine. This is called the main sequence, and it is where our star will spend nearly all of its life. Picture it now glowing there in the space that was once so empty and so cold. The last wisps of the birth cloud are blown gently away, revealing for the first time a small, steady golden light, hanging alone in the dark, casting its warmth out in every direction, into the emptiness, touching nothing yet. Let that image rest behind your closed eyes, a small golden light, newly born glowing quietly in the vast dark. Breathe in that same golden warmth, and let it go, slow and soft as you exhale. The birth is complete. What follows now is a long, long stillness, the great steady middle of a star's life, unfolding across billions of years. Chapter 4, the long golden middle age, now begins the longest chapter of our star's life. Not the most eventful, not the most dramatic, but by far the longest. For billions of years, number so large it stops meaning very much to a human mind. Our star will simply shine, steadily, reliably, fusing hydrogen into helium in its core, hour after hour, year after year, century after century, without pause, without rest, without even the smallest flicker of hesitation. It is in its own way the most patient thing imaginable around this star. Over the first many millions of years, the leftover gas and dust, the last remains of that ancient collapsing cloud, begin to gather themselves too. Little clumps of rock and ice drawn together the same slow way the star itself once formed, circling, colliding gently, sticking, growing, planets, forming quietly in the dark, warmed from a great distance by the light of the star they orbit. Perhaps one of these small worlds is rocky and close to the star's warmth. Perhaps oceans form there, liquid and blue, catching the star's light and reflecting it back into space. Perhaps after many hundreds of millions of years more, something impossibly delicate begins to stir in those waters. Life, tiny and simple at first, patient the way everything out here is patient, slowly changing, generation after generation, for hundreds of millions of years. But the star itself does not notice any of this. It has no eyes, no awareness. It simply continues doing the one thing it does, turning hydrogen into helium, deep in its core, releasing light and warmth in every direction, indifferent and endless. If you were floating nearby, watching from a great distance, you would see almost nothing change, decade after decade. The star simply glows, steady, warm, golden. This is the longest, quietest kind of peace there is. Nothing needs to happen. Nothing needs to change. The star simply exists, patiently, faithfully, for billions of years doing the one soft and steady thing it was born to do. Let yourself rest in that same kind of peace now. You don't need anything to happen either. You are allowed tonight to simply exist, steady, warm, unhurried. The same way our star exists, glowing quietly in the dark, needing nothing, doing nothing but being exactly what it is. Millions of years pass this way, folded quietly into billions. The star's light travels outward in every direction, farther and farther past its planets, out into the emptiness beyond, spreading endlessly, gently, forever outward like ripples on a still, dark pond that never ever stop. Somewhere on that small rocky world, if oceans and life did form there, ages rise and fall, whole species emerge and change and vanish, over spans of time so long that a human lifetime, your lifetime, would barely register as a passing moment against the great slow turning of this story. And still, the star shines on. Let your own breathing settle into that same unhurried rhythm. In 2, 3, 4, out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There is nowhere to rush to, nothing to finish. Only this long, slow, golden middle, stretching on and on for billions of years exactly as it should. Let's stay here a while longer. There's no need to move ahead too quickly. This chapter, after all, is the longest one in our star's entire life. So it deserves to be the longest, slowest part of our story too. Picture the star now, hanging in the dark at the center of its own small system. Around it, in wide, quiet orbits, its planets turn, slowly, the way a second hand turns around a clock, except each full turn might take a year, or 10 years, or 100, depending on how far out the planet sits. Closer in, the smaller, rockier worlds circle quickly, warmed by the star's steady light. Farther out, enormous planets of gas and ice drift by so slowly that a single year there might last longer than an entire human lifetime. None of this troubles the star. It simply shines the same way in every direction onto every world, near or far, without preference, without pause. If a planet is fortunate enough to sit at just the right distance, not so close that its water boils away, not so far that its water freezes solid, something remarkable can happen there over time. Warmed gently, day after day, year after year, by the star's endless light, simple chemistry can begin to shift and change and combine, slowly, patiently, across hundreds of millions of years, until, almost imperceptibly, something that was not alive becomes alive. That moment happens so slowly that there is no single moment you could point to and say, there, that was the beginning. Just a long, unhurried gathering of complexity, the way a snowdrift gathers, flake by flake, until one day, without any single flake being responsible, there is a snowdrift, a foot deep. And the star all the while simply continues shining. It does not know that anything is stirring on that small, distant, rocky world. It has no way of knowing. It only knows how to burn its hydrogen, steadily, faithfully, releasing light and warmth outward into the dark, forever, or at least for now, what feels like forever. Let yourself feel that same steady, faithful glow. You don't need to know what your warmth reaches or touches or helps to grow out there in the dark, beyond what you can see. You only need to keep glowing, softly, exactly as you are, for as long as you need to. Millions of years drift by. If there is life on that small, warmed world, it changes and grows and reshapes itself endlessly. Creatures rising and falling, and rising again in new forms, oceans deepening and receding, continents drifting slowly across the surface of the world, the way clouds drift across a summer sky, only far, far slower. Through it all, the star's light never wavers, never dims, never rushes. Just the same steady gold, poured out endlessly across the dark, touching every corner of its small system day after day, for longer than any single mind anywhere could ever hope to fully imagine. This is what deep, unhurried steadiness looks like. Not stillness exactly. There is enormous energy pouring out of that star, every single moment, but steadiness, reliability. The same soft light, given freely, without any need for it to be noticed, or thanked, or returned. You can rest in that same steadiness now. Whatever this day held for you, whatever needed to be carried, or solved, or worried over, none of it is required of you anymore tonight. You can simply be steady now, simply glow softly in the dark, the way our star does, needing nothing back. Let your breathing settle even further into that same slow golden rhythm. In 2, 3, 4, out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 billions of years pass this way, held gently in the space of just a few of your own slow breaths. The star's long middle age unfolds, patient and complete, exactly as it was always meant to. But now, at last, far off in the story's distance, something is beginning very slowly to shift. Chapter 5, The Turning. But even the longest peace out here among the stars does not last forever. Deep within the core of our star, after countless billions of years, something is quietly running low. The hydrogen, the simple fuel that has powered every single fusion since that very first light long ago, is finally beginning to run out. This does not happen suddenly. Nothing in the life of a star happens suddenly. It happens the way a candle burns lower, and lower its flame the same as it always was, right up until the very last moment when it begins, almost imperceptibly, to change. As the hydrogen in the core thins, the balance our star has held for so long, gravity pulling in, fusion pushing out, begins very slowly to shift. With less fuel to fuse in the very center, the outward push weakens, just slightly, and gravity, patient as ever, takes advantage of that smallest of openings. The core begins to contract, to squeeze inward tighter than before, and strangely beautifully. This makes the star grow hotter. The tightening core presses harder, heats further, and ignites a fresh shell of hydrogen fusion in the layers just outside the core itself. This new burning shell produces even more energy than before, and pushes outward against the star's outer layers with tremendous new force. The outer layers of the star, no longer held in such tight balance, begin to expand. Slowly at first, then more and more. The star begins to swell, growing larger and larger and larger, its outer layers drifting outward and cooling as they go, changing color as they spread, from golden white to a deep gentle orange, to a soft glowing red. Our star has become what astronomers call a red giant. Picture it now. If you can hold the image gently in your mind, a vast, softly glowing red sphere, so much larger than it once was that it now reaches out and swallows whole the space where its nearest planets used to orbit. Any small rocky world that once circled closely, with its oceans and its quiet, patient life, is gone now, gently consumed by the star's slow spreading light. There is no violence in this, no explosion, no cry out into the dark, just a long, soft, glowing expansion, unfolding gently over millions of years, the star's outer layers drifting outward like a slow, warm exhale. Let yourself exhale now too, slow and long and complete. The star is changing, aging, entering a new season of its long, long life, red and vast and glowing, and slower now than it has ever been. Let your own body grow heavier here, sinking further into whatever is holding you, the way the star's outer layers grow thinner and looser, drifting gently outward, farther and farther from the core. Interlude, the slow red hours. Let's rest a while in this red giant chapter before we move any further. Imagine floating near this vast, swollen star, now not too close, of course, but close enough to see its enormous, gently glowing surface, stretching out in every direction, filling up so much more of the sky than any star has a right to. Its light is different now than it was in its golden youth, softer, deeper. A slow, warm red-orange, like the very last light of a sunset, except this sunset does not end. It simply continues, hour after hour, year after year, decade after decade. The surface of the star at this size is not calm the way it once was. Enormous, slow-moving currents of gas rise and fall across it, vast rolling patterns, each one wider than entire planetary orbits used to be, churning with a kind of unhurried, heavy patience. If you watched for 100 years, you might see just one or two of these great patterns rise and fall and rise again. There is something almost breathing about it. A slow, vast inhale and exhale stretched out across centuries instead of seconds. Let your own breath match that same enormous slowness as best as it can, in slowly, 2, 3, 4, 5, and out just as slowly. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The star has nowhere to be and nothing to prove in this stage of its life. It has already burned steadily for billions of years. It has already warmed whatever worlds needed warming, already given whatever light needed giving. Now it simply exists in this new, larger, quieter shape, red and glowing and enormous, easing itself gently toward whatever comes next. You too have nowhere to be tonight. Whatever you have already given today, to your work, to the people around you, to the countless small tasks that filled your hours, it is enough. It was always enough. You don't need to give any more of yourself tonight. You only need to rest here, red and warm and slow, the way our star rests, easing gently towards sleep. Chapter 6. The Shedding. For a long while, our star rests in this new red giant form, vast, glowing, its outer layers loose and gently swirling, its core still working quietly at its center. But this shape, too, cannot last forever. Deep inside, the core has grown incredibly dense, so dense that a single spoonful of that material would weigh more than anything you could ever hope to lift. The core has run out of ways to fuse its remaining fuel, and it can generate no more outward push to fight against gravity's endless patient pull. And so, very gently, with none of the violence you might expect, the outer layers of the star, the loose, wide, glowing atmosphere that has drifted so far from the core, begin to let go. They drift away, softly, slowly, like petals releasing from a flower in still air, or like breath released fully, without any force behind it at all, just a letting go over thousands of years. These outer layers spread outward into space, forming a vast glowing shell of gas around what remains of the star. It shimmers there in the dark, in soft colors, blues and greens and reds lit gently from within by the small, hot core left behind at its center. This glowing shell is called a planetary nebula, though it has nothing to do with planets at all. It simply earned that name long ago from astronomers who thought it looked, through their early telescopes, like a distant, glowing planet. It is one of the most beautiful things in the universe, and it is made entirely of an ending. Let the image rest gently in your mind now. A soft, glowing cloud of color, drifting outward in total silence, expanding slowly into the dark, more beautiful with every passing year, as it lets go and lets go and lets go. You too can let go of anything you're holding onto right now, any tightness in your hands. Let it loosen, the way the star's outer layers loosen and drift. Any tension in your chest, let it soften and spread and release. There is nothing to hold on to tonight, only this slow, soft, beautiful letting go. The glowing shell will drift outward for tens of thousands of years, growing fainter and fainter as it spreads, eventually mixing back into the vast clouds of gas between the stars, the very same kind of cloud, in fact, that our star was born from so long ago, at the very beginning of this story. In this way, endings and beginnings are not so very different out here among the stars. The gas that once made up our star's outer layers may, one day in some far distant future, gather again into a new cloud and begin once more the same slow, patient collapse into some new star entirely. But that is not our story tonight. Tonight we stay here with what remains at the very center, small and hot and glowing and alone now in the dark, wrapped in the last fading wisps of the shell it has released. Interlude. Everything becomes something else. Let's rest a moment longer inside that soft, glowing shell before it drifts too far away. There's something gentle in knowing that nothing here is truly wasted. The gas that once made up the star's outer layers doesn't disappear when it drifts away. It simply changes shape, changes place, joins the great slow river of material that moves endlessly through the galaxy. From cloud to star to shed shell to cloud again, in a cycle so long that a single turn of it can take longer than the universe has so far existed. Some of the atoms drifting outward in this glowing shell right now may once have been part of an even older star, one that lived and shone and faded long before our own star was ever born. And some of the atoms drifting outward tonight may, in some unimaginably distant future, become part of a brand new star altogether, or perhaps part of a new planet with new oceans, and perhaps in time, new life. Nothing is only an ending. Out here, every ending folds gently into some new beginning, somewhere, eventually, even if neither the ending nor the beginning ever knows about the other. You can let that same gentleness rest over you now. Whatever today asked of you, whatever it used up, whatever felt spent or tired or finished by the time you reached this bed tonight, none of it disappears completely either. It becomes part of tomorrow, quietly, the way the stars shed light becomes part of some new story, far off in the dark, that hasn't been written yet for now, though there is nothing to write and nothing to become. Only this soft, glowing drifting, outward and outward and outward into rest. Chapter 7. The White Ember. What is left at the very heart of all that glowing drifting gas is something small, astonishingly small, compared to what the star once was. All that remains now is the star's ancient core, dense beyond imagining, packed so tightly that a single teaspoon of its material would weigh as much as a mountain. And yet, for all its density, this remaining core is now only about the size of a small rocky planet. This is called a white dwarf. It is still hot, blisteringly hot, in fact, hotter than the surface of the star ever was in its golden main sequence years. But it no longer produces any new energy of its own. There is no more fusion happening here, no more fuel to burn. This is simply the star's leftover heat, its very last warmth, glowing outward slowly into the dark, with nothing left to replenish it. Imagine an ember deep in a fireplace, long after the flames themselves have gone out, still glowing, still faintly warm to look at, but cooling, slowly, with nothing left to feed it, destined only to grow dimmer and dimmer as time goes on. That is what our star has become. There is a stillness to this stage that is unlike anything before it in our story. No more changing, no more swelling or shrinking or shedding. Just a slow, quiet cooling, unfolding across an almost unimaginable stretch of time. Not thousands of years now, but billions upon billions of years, longer than the star's entire life up until this point. Longer even than the universe itself has existed, so far. Let your own body settle into that same kind of profound, unhurried stillness. Nothing left to do, nothing left to become, just a long, slow, gentle cooling, glowing softly, needing nothing at all. The white dwarf sits alone now in the dark, no longer surrounded by the glowing shell it once shed. That shell has long since drifted off into the wider galaxy, spreading so thin it can no longer even be seen. Just this one small, dense, glowing ember remains, hanging quietly in the vast black. It shines on for a very long time. Millions of years, then billions. Its light fades slowly from a brilliant white to a soft yellow to a deep, gentle orange. The very same colors, in reverse, that marked the star's birth so long, long ago, though it will take unimaginably longer to fade than it ever took to brighten. You can let yourself fade the same way now if you'd like, slowly, gently, no rush at all. Just a long, warm, easy dimming, like a light on a dimmer switch, turned down so slowly you can barely notice the change from one breath to the next. Interlude, a billion quiet years. Let's linger here a while, beside this small, dim, cooling ember, before we let it fade completely. It's strange to think that something so small could once have been so vast, a red giant stretching out far enough to swallow entire worlds. And now all of that immense size has folded down into something no larger than a planet, glowing softly, alone, in the enormous dark. But size was never really the point, not out here. A star's true weight isn't measured only in how large it grows, or how brightly it once burned, but in how long it gave its light, how steadily it held its warmth, how faithfully it kept shining through all those billions of ordinary years when nothing dramatic happened at all. The white dwarf carries that same faithfulness with it now, even as it fades. Every quiet year that passes, it gives a little more of its remaining warmth outward, into the dark, asking for nothing in return, expecting no audience, needing no witness. There is something worth resting in that thought. You don't need an audience for your own rest tonight either. No one needs to see you sleeping soundly for it to matter. No one needs to know how deeply you're letting go. Right now, for that letting go to be real and whole and enough. Just like the white dwarf glowing quietly for no one. You can rest quietly now for no reason at all except that it is time to rest. Millions of years drift by, folded gently into billions. The white dwarf's light grows dimmer and dimmer, its color deepening from white to soft yellow, to a low, gentle ember orange. The very last warmth of a life that once burned so brilliantly, now settling slowly into a long, unhurried twilight. Let your own thoughts dim the same way now. Whatever is still glowing faintly in your mind, a thought, a worry, a small unfinished corner of the day, let it dim too. Not gone, not erased, just turned down, softened, allowed to rest, unlit. Until some other day, there is nothing left to tend to tonight, only this long, slow, gentle dimming, drifting on and on and on. Chapter 8, the final, silent rest. Now we come to the very end of our story, though end is almost the wrong word for something that happens this slowly, this gently. Over the course of trillions of years, a span of time so vast, it stretches far beyond the current age of the universe itself. Our white dwarf continues its long, unhurried cooling. It has no more heat to generate, only the warmth it has always had, left over from its bright and golden life, slowly, slowly leaking away into the endless cold of space around it. There is no one left to see this. Whatever life may have existed, on whatever small worlds once circled this star, is long gone by now, either drifted away or ended gently, ages upon ages ago, in the slow unfolding of time. The galaxy around our star has changed almost beyond recognition. Other stars have been born and lived and faded, just as this one did. But out here in this one small corner of space, there is only this one dim, cooling ember, and the silent dark around it. Eventually, and this eventually is almost too long a stretch of time to hold in the mind at all, our star's core will cool completely. It will stop glowing altogether. It will become invisible, dark, cold, and utterly silent. Its light gone, its warmth gone, indistinguishable from the blackness of space around it. This is called a black dwarf. It is the final, truest rest there is. No more change, no more fading, no more anything at all. Just a small, dense, silent sphere drifting alone in the vast dark, exactly as still and exactly as quiet as the cold nebula it was born from, all those billions and billions of years ago. The story that began in a quiet, dark cloud ends at last, in a quiet, dark stillness. The circle closes softly, the way every circle in this story has closed, not with an ending, exactly, but with a long, slow, gentle return to rest. Let that same rest settle over you now. You have traveled the entire lifetime of a star tonight, from its first quiet gathering in the cold and the dark, through its bright, warm, golden middle years, through its slow, beautiful letting go, all the way to this final, silent peace. There is nowhere left to go from here, nothing left to become, just this soft, complete, and total stillness. Let your breathing rest here too. Slow, even, unhurried in 2, 3, 4, and out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You are safe here in this quiet dark, the way the black dwarf is safe, at last, from all the long, slow changes that came before it. Nothing more needs to happen, nothing more needs to be done. Somewhere out there right now, in some far corner of the galaxy, another cloud of cold gas is beginning its own slow gathering, the way our story began so long ago. Somewhere else, a young star is settling into its own long, golden middle age. Somewhere else, a red giant is easing its outer layers gently into the dark. The universe is full of these stories, all unfolding at once, all at their own unhurried pace, none of them rushing, none of them needing to be finished by any particular time. You don't need to be finished by any particular time either. Let this be the last thought you carry with you, if any thought needs carrying at all, that everything everywhere moves at exactly the pace it needs to move. The cloud gathers when it's ready, the star ignites when it's ready, the giant lets go when it's ready, and you can rest, now, exactly when you're ready. No sooner, no later, just now. Just rest now. Just drift, just let everything soften and settle and fade, the same slow way a star fades, into silence, into darkness, into the deepest, most peaceful sleep imaginable. Sleep well. Close your eyes and leave the concept of time far behind you. You're entering a realm where millions of years pass like a single quiet breath. Before the light, before the warmth, before the gentle rotation of planets, there is only the vast, undisturbed ocean of the cosmic dark. You are floating in a space so deep and so ancient that human words cannot measure it. This is the great quiet, the space between the galaxies. You are perfectly weightless, completely untethered from the rush and noise of the world you left behind. There is no urgency here, no tasks, no morning to wake up to. Only the slow, steady rhythm of the eternal void. Take a very deep, slow breath in, feeling the pure, pristine emptiness of space fill your lungs. And as you exhale, let every muscle in your body release its tension, dissolving out into the infinite black. Ahead of you, a shadow begins to emerge against the faint, distant starlight. It is not a solid object, but a majestic, towering silhouette. A molecular cloud, a dark nebula. It stretches across the void for trillions of miles, a silent monument suspended in the deep freeze of the universe. From the outside, it looks like a massive, impenetrable wall of pitch-black velvet hiding the secrets of creation within its folds. But you are not just watching from the outside. You're a silent, invisible wanderer, and you're drifting slowly, effortlessly, right into the very heart of the shadow. As you cross the threshold into the nebula, the faint light of the distant universe fades away completely. You are enveloped in the most perfect, comforting darkness you have ever known. It is not an empty dark, it is a rich, heavy cocoon of interstellar dust and primeval gas. You are surrounded by the ancient remnants of older, long-forgotten stars, reduced to microscopic grains of carbon and silicone, coated in delicate, unseen layers of pristine ice. Notice how still it is. The temperature here is hovering just above absolute zero. In this profound chill, all movement is incredibly slow, a majestic microscopic ballet that goes completely unseen by the rest of the cosmos. Every atom, every grain of dust is resting in a state of suspended animation, waiting patiently in the dark. Your breathing slows down even further, perfectly matching this cosmic rhythm. Inhale the cold, pure darkness. Exhale, and let yourself sink deeper into the cloud. Here, in the deepest depths of the nebula, gravity begins its slow, eternal work. It is the weakest force in the universe, yet the most patient. It does not rush. It does not force. It simply invites. One tiny, invisible atom of hydrogen, drifting aimlessly through the black, feels the faintest, gentlest pull from another atom nearby. They drift toward each other over thousands of years, moving closer by fractions of a millimeter, until they finally, silently embrace. This invisible dance is happening all around you. Trillions of times over, the dust grains, coated in their microscopic layers of frost, gently bump into one another in the dark, sticking together to form tiny pebbles, then stones, then massive boulders of ice and dust, all in absolute perfect silence. There is no sound of collision here, only a silent, peaceful merging. Eons pass like seconds as you watch this magnificent gathering. The cloud begins to change. Drawn together by the irresistible soft whisper of gravity, the center of the nebula slowly grows heavier, denser. The entire massive structure, trillions of miles wide, begins to turn. It is a slow, hypnotic rotation. It spins so incredibly slowly that if you watched it for 100 lifetimes, you would not even see it move. But you can feel it. You can feel the gentle, spiraling current of the dark dust pulling you softly toward the center. You do not resist. You allow yourself to be carried by the slow, majestic tide of creation. You are drifting deeper and deeper into the core. As millions of years quietly slip away into the dark, the gathering of dust and gas in the center of the cloud creates a gentle, subtle pressure. And with that pressure comes a soft, hidden warmth. It is not the fierce, blinding heat of a burning star. Not yet. The true ignition is still ages away. Right now, it is just a gentle, comforting glow, a faint infrared hum hidden deep behind light years of dark dust. It is like a heavy, warm blanket wrapping around a sleeping infant. You sink down into the very center of this massive, rotating cloud, drawn to that soft, hidden warmth. The freezing coldness of the outer void is left far behind. Here, in the heart of the nebula, you are enveloped in a perfect, heavy comfort. The pressure of the gathering gas is a soothing weight, pressing gently against your consciousness, grounding you, holding you perfectly safe. The protostar is forming. It is dreaming. It has not yet opened its eyes to the universe. It is simply gathering its strength, resting peacefully in the quiet dark, and you are resting with it. There is absolutely nothing you need to do. The universe is taking care of everything. Let the slow, ancient rotation of the nebula rock you into a state of total tranquility. Let the gentle warmth of the sleeping star seep into your mind, melting away the last remnants of thought. The birth of light is still millions of years in the future. For now, there is only the peaceful, heavy dark, the slow, silent gathering of the dust, and the deep, dreamless sleep of the cosmos. Sink down into the warmth, sink down into the gravity. Let the quiet take you completely. Sleep. Sleep in the heart of the ancient cloud. Deep within the crushing, comforting weight of the core, the threshold is finally crossed. Hydrogen atoms, pressed together by the unimaginable weight of the surrounding cosmos, seamlessly merge into helium. In this quiet, invisible union, a single spark is born, a photon of pure energy. But this light does not burst into the void. It begins a slow, arduous, and beautiful journey upward. For 100,000 years, this tiny packet of light drifts through the dense, fluid layers of the newborn star. It is absorbed and re-emitted billions of times, wandering aimlessly in the crushing warmth, slowly making its way toward the surface. Millions of other photons join it, creating a silent, rising tide of energy. And then, after an eternity of wandering through the dense interior, the light finally breaks the surface. The dark nebula that has shrouded this place for millions of years is suddenly pierced by a soft, golden radiance. It is not a blinding flash, but a slow, magnificent dawn that stretches across billions of miles. The heavy, cold dust of the ancient cloud is gently pushed away by the first true breath of the star. The solar wind, a steady, invisible river of particles, sweeps through the darkness, clearing the cosmic fog, blowing away the shadows, and revealing the breathtaking beauty of the newborn sun. You are floating in the presence of a perfect luminous sphere. It is a flawless globe of golden white plasma, humming with a deep, silent energy. There is a profound sense of harmony here. A perfect, unwavering equilibrium has been reached. The unimaginable gravity of the star is pulling everything inward, trying to crush the sphere, but the fierce, steady warmth of the nuclear fusion in the core pushes outward with exactly the same amount of force. They meet in a perfect, eternal balance. A cosmic handshake that will last for billions of years. This equilibrium brings an overwhelming sense of peace. The star is not struggling, it is not turbulent, it is simply existing, resting in its own perfect geometry, radiating a constant, gentle warmth into the freezing void. You bathe in this golden light. It carries no heat that can harm you, only a deep, soothing energy that washes over your consciousness, untangling any remaining threads of thought. As the solar wind continues to clear the ancient dust, the space around the star transforms. The remnants of the dark nebula have flattened into a magnificent glowing disk of debris, circling the star in a slow, hypnotic whirlpool. Over millions of years, this disk begins to organize itself. The chaos of the scattered dust gives way to the beautiful, undeniable laws of orbital mechanics. Tiny grains of rock and ice, warmed by the new light, gently bump and fuse together. You watch as these fragments grow into smooth, round worlds. The birth of planets. It happens so slowly, with such majestic patience, that it looks like a delicate dance choreographed by the universe itself. Closer to the star, where the warmth is most intense, the rocky worlds take shape. Spheres of molten iron and silicate, glowing with a soft, dull red heat, slowly cooling in the vacuum of space to form solid, quiet landscapes of stone. You watch the surface of these young worlds calm down, the lava oceans hardening into vast, dark plains, untouched by wind or rain, waiting in perfect stillness. Further out, where the light is softer and the cold remains, the giant worlds are born, massive, silent spheres of swirling gas and ancient ice, sweeping up the remaining atmosphere of the nebula, growing into colossal, majestic sentinels wrapped in thick, colorful clouds of amber, azure, and pale turquoise. You drift alongside one of these gas giants, feeling the immense slow rotation of its atmosphere. Its magnetic field is a silent, invisible shield, catching the distant solar wind and weaving it into ghostly glowing auroras that dance in slow motion across its dark poles. Each of these new worlds finds its perfect path around the star, an orbit, a delicate, invisible track in the fabric of space. You watch as the planets settle into their eternal rhythms. There is no friction here, no resistance. Once in motion, they simply glide forward, endlessly falling around the star without ever touching it. It is a cosmic clockwork of absolute precision, completely silent, utterly harmonious. The inner planets trace their tight, swift circles while the outer giants move with a slow, ponderous grace, taking centuries to complete a single journey. Even further out, at the very edge of the system, millions of frozen comets drift in the twilight, glowing faintly like scattered diamonds, guarding the boundaries of this new domain. You are suspended above this magnificent system, watching the silent symphony of gravity and light. Eras pass like the gentle turning of a page, mountains rise and fall on the rocky worlds below, atmospheres shift and settle, ice caps grow and retreat. But the star in the center remains completely, beautifully unchanged. It is an anchor of stability in the endless dark, a beacon of unwavering light that will burn quietly, steadily, for 10 billion years. This is the main sequence, the longest, most peaceful chapter in the life of a star. There is no dramatic change, no sudden shifts, only the reliable, comforting presence of the golden light, pushing back the shadows of the void. You are drifting through a universe of perfect order. Every planet is exactly where it is supposed to be. Every atom of light is performing its ancient duty. The vast empty spaces between the worlds are filled, not with cold, but with the invisible, warming embrace of the star's energy. You can feel that same energy within yourself, a deep, steady resonance that aligns with the slow turning of the planets. There is no need to count the passing millennia. There is no need to anticipate what comes next. The future is an eternity away, and the past has dissolved into the silent dust. All that exists is this golden moment, stretched out to infinity, the endless gentle drift along the invisible currents of gravity, the unbroken silent hum of a world in perfect balance. You are a part of this ancient light. You are a part of this perfect circle, floating, observing, existing in the warm golden quiet of an eternal afternoon. The golden age of the star, a period of perfect, unwavering equilibrium, stretches across the eons, a seemingly endless expanse of time where nothing changes, nothing falters. You have drifted through this radiant harmony for billions of years, a silent witness to the steady, comforting hum of a perfectly balanced universe. But in the grand architecture of the cosmos, even eternity has its chapters, and the long, glorious afternoon of the star is finally beginning to draw to a close. Deep within the heart of the sphere, hidden beneath hundreds of thousands of miles of luminous plasma, a quiet, inevitable shift is taking place. The ancient fuel, the hydrogen that has burned so faithfully since the dark nebula first collapsed, is finally running out. As the core empties, the delicate, perfect balance between the outward push of energy and the crushing inward pull of gravity begins to tremble. Gravity, the most patient force in the universe, gently begins to reclaim its territory. Without the intense heat of hydrogen fusion to push back, the core of the star slowly starts to contract. It shrinks, folding in on itself, becoming unimaginably dense, a glowing diamond of absolute pressure hidden in the dark center. As this core compresses, it generates a new, desperate kind of heat, a temperature so extreme that it sends a profound shockwave of energy outward through the star. The response of the vast outer layers is magnificent and slow. Pushed by this new surge of heat from below, the entire outer envelope of the star begins to expand, swelling outward like a slow, majestic breath that takes millions of years to exhale. The star grows, And as it grows, the energy is stretched across a vastly larger surface area. The brilliant, piercing golden light begins to soften, cooling, as it reaches further into the vacuum of space. You watch suspended in the silent void, as the color of the entire solar system begins to shift. The crisp, warm yellow melts into a rich, heavy amber, then deepens into a thick, burnt orange, before finally settling into a profoundly calming, drowsy crimson. The star has become a titan, a red giant. It is now hundreds of times larger than it was in its youth, a colossal glowing ruby suspended in the infinite night. Its surface is no longer a sharp, defined sphere, but a hazy, drifting ocean of red plasma, so vast and diffuse that it barely has a solid edge, simply fading gently into the dark. The energy here has completely transformed. It is no longer active or bright. It is a heavy blanket-like warmth, a dim, soothing light that casts long, soft shadows across the remaining cosmos. As the crimson giant continues its slow, inevitable swell, it reaches out across the dark to touch the worlds it created so long ago. The inner rocky planets, the silent worlds of hardened lava and gray stone that have orbited faithfully for billions of years, do not face a violent end. Instead, they are met with a slow, gentle embrace. The expanding red atmosphere surrounds them, a quiet, glowing fog that smoothly and silently absorbs the ancient stone. The mountains, the deep valleys, the quiet plains, everything simply dissolves, melting softly back into the immense ocean of plasma. It is a peaceful return to the source, a reunion of dust and light, closing a beautiful circle that began in the dark nebula eons ago. There is no destruction, only a graceful reintegration into the whole. You drift further out, riding the heavy, slow solar wind, watching the warmth of the red giant reach into the deep freeze of the outer system. The silent, icy moons, worlds that have spent their entire existence in the absolute dark, are now bathed in a rich ruby glow. Ancient frozen oceans of water and methane begin to soften under the new heavy light. The thick ice cracks and shifts with a slow, muted grace, revealing dark, silent liquid depths beneath. For a brief, beautiful cosmic moment, these distant frozen outposts become vibrant, glowing spheres of liquid, reflecting the massive crimson face of their dying sun. The gas giants themselves swell slightly in the new warmth, their massive storms slowing down, their swirling bands of color shifting to match the heavy, sleepy light of the red giant. The universe holds this immense glowing ruby in the palm of its hand with a sense of ultimate completion. The frantic energy of creation is long gone. The steady, bright labor of the main sequence is finished. Now there is only the quiet, majestic twilight. The star pulses, but not quickly. It is a slow, rhythmic expansion and contraction, like the deep, measured breathing of a massive resting creature. Each pulse takes years to complete, a silent, echoing heartbeat that reverberates through the dark, carrying a slow, gentle rocking motion that lulls the entire system into a state of profound lethargy. You drift through the very outer edges of the red giant's atmosphere, feeling no heat, only the delicate, weightless brush of scattered crimson photons against the void. The sheer scale of the star is impossible to comprehend, a wall of glowing red that fills your entire field of vision, yet it feels entirely harmless, a gentle ancient giant preparing for its final rest. Time itself seems to stretch and blur in the presence of such mass and such quiet. The slow, hypnotic turning of the remaining outer planets, the gentle, rhythmic pulsing of the crimson atmosphere, the fading of the light, everything is winding down. The universe is exhaling, letting go of the tension, releasing the bonds of gravity and light. You are part of this grand cosmic exhale, drifting weightlessly in the dim ruby glow, observing the beautiful, peaceful twilight of a world that has lived a full and glorious life, feeling yourself dissolve into the slow, heavy, crimson silence. The long, hypnotic twilight of the red giant, a phase that stretched across millions of years, finally reaches its ultimate quiet conclusion. The deep, measured pulsing of the massive crimson star becomes slower, heavier, and more profound with every cycle. Deep within the core, the final reserves of energy have been quietly exhausted, and the delicate hold of gravity over the vast, sprawling outer atmosphere begins to loosen entirely. There is no violent explosion, no sudden fracture in the silence of space. Instead, there is a gentle, ultimate release. The star simply lets go. The immense, hazy red envelope of plasma detaches from the core, drifting outward in a perfectly silent, majestic exhalation. You watch as this outer shell expands into the infinite dark, moving with the slow, graceful fluidity of a silk veil caught in an unseen, eternal current. This is the birth of a planetary nebula, a cosmic flower opening its delicate petals in the absolute zero of the void. As the gas expands, it is illuminated by the naked, blindingly hot core that has been left behind, transforming the once crimson plasma into a breathtaking masterpiece of iridescent color. Ghostly ribbons of pale cyan, deep violet, and shimmering emerald green sweep across the black canvas of space, creating a massive, glowing labyrinth of light and shadow. You float effortlessly through these expanding veils of illuminated dust, watching the sheer scale of this silent departure. The nebula stretches for trillions of miles, washing over the remaining outer gas giants, bathing their thick atmospheres in a final ethereal display of ultraviolet light before continuing its endless journey out into the interstellar ocean. Slowly, over tens of thousands of years, the glowing gas dissipates, thinning out until it is perfectly absorbed by the dark, leaving behind only the true heart of the system, the white dwarf. It is a tiny, brilliantly intense sphere, no larger than a single terrestrial planet, yet containing the crushed, concentrated mass of an entire sun. You drift closer to this ancient, naked core, feeling the overwhelming silent power of its gravity. The matter here is packed so tightly that a single handful would weigh more than a mountain. It is a masterpiece of extreme physics, a sphere of degenerate carbon and oxygen, burning with an intense, fierce white heat, completely unshielded in the empty vacuum. But despite its brilliant light, there is no fusion happening within. The star is no longer creating energy, it is simply, slowly, radiating away the trapped heat of its youth. It is a cooling ember sitting quietly in the deepest, darkest winter of the cosmos. The majestic solar system that once thrived in the golden warmth of this star is now a shadow of its former self. The gas giants, having survived the red giant phase and the passing of the nebula, now orbit this tiny, brilliant pinpoint in absolute freezing darkness. Their vibrant colors have muted, their massive storms have settled into perfectly still, frozen bands of ancient gas. They trace their massive silent circles around the white dwarf, bound by its immense gravity, locked in a perpetual frozen twilight. You hover above this silent clockwork, a witness to the profound patience of the universe. Time loses all remaining structure here. The cooling of a white dwarf is a process so incredibly slow that it takes longer than the current age of the universe to complete. You are watching a trillion-year sunset. Eras pass in the blink of an eye, and slowly, imperceptibly, the brilliant white light of the dwarf begins to soften. The sharp, piercing glow mellows into a faint, buttery yellow, shedding its intense heat into the bottomless reservoir of space. Billions more years drift silently by, and the yellow deepens into a warm, drowsy orange, then to a dull, heavy red. The star is retreating, pulling its energy inward, growing darker, colder, more serene. The surrounding void presses closer, wrapping its comforting, velvet darkness around the fading ember. The universe is in no rush to claim this ancient monument. It allows the star to fade with the utmost dignity, a slow, beautiful decrescendo into the absolute quiet. As the red glow finally extinguishes, the white dwarf crosses its final threshold, becoming something entirely theoretical, something the young universe has barely begun to see. A black dwarf, it is a perfect silent sphere of crystallized carbon, a colossal diamond the size of a world, resting perfectly still in the absolute zero of the eternal night. There is no light here anymore, no heat, no movement, only the perfect, flawless geometry of the frozen core, a silent tombstone marking the place where a star once burned. The massive frozen gas giants continue their dark, invisible orbits around this unseen mass, a ghost system forever traveling through the vast interstellar ocean. You are floating directly beside the massive dark crystal, suspended in a realm of absolute total stillness. The darkness here is absolute, pure, and flawlessly empty. It holds no fear, only an overwhelming sense of completion. The journey is over. The long, beautiful cycle of birth, life, and slow, peaceful fading has reached its final equilibrium. There is nothing left to change, nothing left to move. The background temperature of the universe has embraced the ancient star, turning it into a seamless part of the quiet, empty void. You are completely untethered, a silent observer dissolved into the heavy, comforting fabric of eternity. The lack of light, the lack of sound, the lack of any sensation at all is a profound, liberating relief. You are just a point of awareness resting in the exact center of forever. The universe has exhaled its final breath, and now it is perfectly, infinitely still. The vast, dark spaces between the dead stars are oceans of absolute tranquility. You drift alongside the unseen, frozen diamond, moving without direction, without purpose, simply existing in the flawless, eternal dark.